My brothers and sisters, the day I stood beside Dr. S. Jaishankar in New York, beneath the glass towers of power where empires once dictated our fate, I knew we were rewriting history. The United Nations building loomed behind us. Diplomats whispered in corridors. Cameras flashed like lightning. But for me, it was not just another summit. It was the sound of Africa reaching for the stars. $42 billion. Let that number settle in your soul. The world's headlines screamed it. Western media scrambled to understand it. But listen closely, my brothers and sisters. This was not charity. This was not a handout wrapped in pity. This was not the usual dance of loans that strangle, aid that enslaves, or promises that evaporate like morning mist. No, this was a partnership forged between equals. Sovereignty meeting ambition. Technology meeting courage. The future meeting those brave enough to seize it. They said I was too young to lead, too reckless to be trusted with power, too bold to sit at tables with giants. Yet in that moment, in that room where nations are made and broken, I carried the weight of every African who ever looked up at the night sky and wondered why we could never reach it. The farmer who plants by guessing rain. The soldier who defends borders he cannot fully see. The child who dreams of impossible things. I did not sign for myself. I signed for them. And as the ink dried on that historic agreement, I felt the old order tremble. They do not fear our poverty. They have always profited from it. They fear our awakening. They fear the moment Africa stops begging and starts building. That day, under the gaze of the world, they saw the truth. Burkina Faso will not kneel. We will stand. We will not beg for permission to rise. We will claim our place among the stars. Many will ask, why satellites? Why now? Brothers and sisters, this pact is not simply about metal objects floating in orbit. It is about seeing our own land with our own eyes. For decades, French satellites photographed our gold mines. American satellites tracked our military movements. European systems monitored our weather, our crops, our resources, all while we paid for the privilege of being watched. They saw our soil better than we did. They knew where our uranium lay, where our lithium slept, where our water flowed. And they used that knowledge not to help us, but to exploit us. But on that day in New York, that changed forever. Africa's first satellite. Not purchased, not rented, not borrowed, built. Ours. With Indian partnership, yes, but manufactured on African soil, launched with African engineers, controlled by African hands. When that satellite passes over Ouagadougou, over Bamako, over Dakar, it will not report to Paris or Washington. It will report to us. Let us speak plainly about what this $42 billion contains, because transparency is the weapon against those who whisper that this is fantasy. $12 billion for Africa's first satellite manufacturing facility in Ouagadougou. Not an assembly line, not a warehouse, a complete production complex where Burkina engineers will build satellites from circuit boards to solar panels. $9 billion for the launch of 18 satellites. 6 for communications, linking every village from Sahel to Sahara. 6 for Earth observation, watching our borders, our forests, our resources. 6 for military and defense, encrypted beyond Western interception. $8 billion for ground stations and tracking infrastructure across West Africa, creating a network that cannot be shut down by foreign powers. $7 billion for the African Space Technology Institute, a decade-long program training 10,000 engineers, programmers, and technicians. $4 billion for defense communication systems, ensuring our military coordinates without foreign ears listening. $2 billion for agricultural applications, satellite data flowing to farmers' phones, telling them when to plant, when to harvest, when rain will come. These are not grants that come with conditions. These are not loans that come with chains. This is foreign direct investment, structured as a partnership where India provides expertise and Burkina Faso provides determination. India's space agency, ISRO, built greatness on modest budgets. They launched 104 satellites in a single mission. They reached Mars for less than a Hollywood movie. They understand efficiency. They understand ambition without arrogance. And they understand something the West never did. Partnership means both sides rise. But let us not be naive, brothers and sisters. Investment is not charity. India will gain. They will secure data partnerships, launch contracts, strategic presence in Africa. The question before us is not whether India benefits. They will. The question is, will Burkina Faso benefit more? Will the satellites launched carry our voice or theirs? Will the engineers trained stay and build or leave and forget? Will the technology transfer be real or will it remain ink on expensive paper? Walk through Ouagadougou's streets as the news spreads. A taxi driver hears it on his radio and shakes his head. Another promise, another headline. A mother selling mangoes wonders if satellites will feed her children. A student studying engineering dares to hope but remembers past betrayals. Farmers in Kaya, welders in Bobo Dioulasso, soldiers in remote outposts, they have all heard grand announcements before. Too many vanished into corruption, into bureaucracy, into foreign bank accounts while the people remained in darkness. This time must be different. If communication satellites connect rural hospitals to city specialists, if observation satellites help farmers double their yields, if the Space Institute trains a generation of African engineers, then this pact will not just be words. It will be lived reality. Thousands of jobs will bloom in satellite manufacturing, in ground station operations, in data analysis. Young people will code software that interprets African geography. Technicians will maintain systems that guard African skies. But if the facility becomes a foreign enclave, if profits flow to New Delhi while Ouagadougou sees nothing, if only Indians operate what sits on our soil, then this becomes another betrayal in a long history of betrayals. The real test will not be in speeches or ceremonies. It will be in the village where internet arrives for the first time via satellite. It will be in the military post where soldiers detect threats before they strike. It will be in the hands of the first Burkina engineer who holds a satellite she helped build and says, "I made this." Do you feel it, brothers and sisters? From Washington to Paris, from Brussels to Beijing, they are scrambling in their corridors of power. How did this happen? How did Burkina Faso, small, landlocked, underestimated, sign the largest technology transfer deal in African history? How did they meet in New York, in the shadow of the United Nations, where Africa has been lectured to for decades, and announce Africa's leap into space? The answer is simple. We dared because we must. For too long, the West held us hostage with conditional aid, with debt that never ends, with technology they refused to share. China poured money into infrastructure, but often on their terms, with their workers, leaving us dependent. They all believed they alone controlled Africa's future. But India stepped forward with a different offer. Build with us, not for us. Learn from us, not through us. Rise with us, not behind us. This deal is not simply Burkina Faso ascending. It is Africa declaring to the world, we choose our partners, we choose our timeline, we choose our destiny. And make no mistake, this has shaken the old order to its foundations. For decades, they counted on our dependence, on our division, on our belief that space was beyond us. They are terrified that other nations will follow this path, that Kenya will demand its own satellites, that Ghana will build its own space program, that sovereignty will spread like wildfire across the continent. To them I say, yes, be afraid. Because this is not the end, this is the beginning. From Ouagadougou to Nairobi, from Accra to Kigali, the message is clear. Africa is no longer a playground for foreign empires. Africa is a partner. Africa is awake. And Africa is looking up. What is sovereignty without the ability to see? For too long, we defended borders we could barely monitor. We planned agriculture without accurate weather data. We searched for resources while foreigners mapped them from orbit. Security without surveillance is vulnerability dressed in uniform. Development without data is guessing dressed as planning. This $42 billion changes everything. 18 satellites will form Africa's eyes in the sky. Military satellites watching the Sahel, tracking insurgent movements before they strike, monitoring borders that stretch beyond what soldiers on foot can guard. Communication satellites ending the isolation of remote villages, connecting schools, hospitals, markets. Earth observation satellites revealing where water hides underground, where minerals sleep, where forests need protection. All of this controlled not from foreign command centers, but from Ouagadougou, from African soil, by African hands. Critics whisper their doubts. What if India keeps the encryption keys? What if you become dependent on their launch vehicles? What if the technology is too complex for African engineers? To them I say, every journey toward freedom carries risk. Yes, we will rely on Indian rockets initially. Yes, we will need their expertise at first. But the agreement is clear. Technology transfer, not technology rental. Training, not dependency. Partnership, not patronage. And to those who say satellites are too ambitious while people need water and roads, I say, whoever controls the sky controls the future. Our ancestors navigated by stars. We will claim them. They want us to stay on the ground, focused only on survival, never on transcendence. But we refuse. We will build roads and reach for orbit. We will dig wells and launch satellites. We will do both because we must. Every gamble contains two futures. Which path we walk depends not on luck, but on discipline. Not on promises, but on execution. Best case, the manufacturing facility rises in Ouagadougou, gleaming with purpose. 10,000 young Africans train in satellite technology. The first satellite, built by Burkina hands, launches into orbit. Communication spreads to every village. Farmers receive real-time data. The military watches borders with unprecedented clarity. Burkina Faso becomes West Africa's space hub. Other nations send their engineers to learn from us. A new industry is born, employing thousands. In inspiring millions. Worst case, corruption seeps in like poison through cracks we failed to seal. Contracts are mismanaged, funds are siphoned into private accounts. The facility becomes a hollow shell, a monument to broken promises. Foreign contractors dominate while locals sweep floors. The satellites launch but serve foreign interests more than ours. The people see little change. Anger spreads. Protests rise. The pact collapses into another gravestone in the cemetery of African dreams. The line between these futures is thin, brothers and sisters. Too many times we have stumbled into the worst case, betrayed by leaders who sold our future for personal gain. I refuse that fate, but my refusal alone is not enough. It will take every Burkinabe, vigilant and demanding, to turn the bright future into reality. It will take journalists investigating, citizens questioning, institutions holding power accountable. This pact is not a miracle. It is a chance, and chances once lost do not return. Do not think this pact concerns only us. From Senegal to South Africa, from Egypt to Ethiopia, Africa is watching. Can Burkina Faso pull this off? If we succeed, we light a torch across the continent. Leaders will look to Ouagadougou and say, if they could reach space, so can we. New partnerships will bloom, the chains of technological dependence will weaken. A new map of possibility will be drawn, not in Western capitals, but in African ones. If we fail, the skeptics will celebrate. They will say, see, Africa cannot handle advanced technology. Give them billions and they will waste it. They belong on the ground, not in orbit. Our failure would be used as a weapon against every African nation, daring to dream beyond survival. That is why this transcends borders. Our success lifts the continent. Our failure drags it down. History is watching, and history does not forgive wasted opportunities. When I stood beside Dr. Jaishankar in New York, when we signed our names before the world, I did not sign a simple contract. I signed a declaration of African capability. I signed a challenge to those who said space belongs only to the wealthy and the Western. I signed for the child in Ouagadougou who looks at stars and wonders if they are reachable. I signed for the future where Made in Africa appears on satellites orbiting Earth. This $42 billion is steel and silicon, yes, but it is also dignity. It is also defiance. It is the sound of chains breaking, of ceilings shattering, of Africa rising, not on borrowed wings, but on wings we build ourselves. 5 years from now, the world will judge. Will Burkina Faso shine with functioning satellites and trained engineers? Or will we stumble in mismanagement? Will African youth stand tall as space technicians? Or will this become another broken promise? I do not claim certainty. I claim commitment. Obstacles will come. Sabotage will be attempted. Doubt will whisper in dark moments. But this pact is a seed planted in the soil of our struggle, watered by the will of our people, reaching toward the light of possibility. Brothers and sisters, the pen that writes history has been in foreign hands for too long. It was held in Paris, in London, in Washington, writing our story as footnotes to their empires. No more. The story of Burkina Faso will be written in Ouagadougou. The story of Africa will be written by Africans. And part of that story, written in fire and metal, will arc across the sky in orbit. They thought we would stay on the ground forever. They were wrong. Africa is rising. And when our satellite passes over their capitals, perhaps they will look up and remember, we are watching back.